everybody, this is Wargamer Sean. I'm here to do a review, which I haven't done in a long time, so I apologize for that. And I need to go back and do a few reviews that I've missed, but I'm going to go and do today the Death from the Skies review, just because I think it's new and it's on everybody's mind. Um, so I'm not going to go through some of the details in here. They do have some campaigns that I think are interesting. That if you want to play that, as its own like games, that's fine. I'm not going to go through all of the individual ships just because they really are pretty much unchanged. And so I'm not going to go through points and that sort of thing. I will go through a couple of the new. There's a new fighter from the Imperium, and there's also a new attack fighter for the Orcs. That's a mech blasta thing that we'll go through. The one thing I will say, I think it's interesting. I mean, they do kind of change and rework the flyers a little bit and kind of change their role in the game, which can be big. I think they're trying to bring flyers kind of back because I think people aren't using them as much. I think the main reason is Tau kind of put an end to it just because Tau have such an array of Skyfire available to them that it makes them taking out flyers fairly easy. And I think they kind of toned down flyers. Before that, in the beginning of 6th edition, we used to see flyers quite a bit because they could do so much and they were such terrors to deal with. But I think now we don't tend to see them as much. And maybe we'll see them a little bit more. And so we'll have to start, some of our armies will have to start thinking about how to deal with flyers again because we haven't had to really deal with them as much. We'll see. Well, time will tell. The one thing that I hopefully they come out with a sheet for, or data sheet for right away is they forgot to put, they have Valkyries in there, but they forgot to put Vendettas in for Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum, which is kind of weird because Vendettas are probably used by us players more than Valkyries are. So they need to fix that for sure. Also, Forge World will have to update its FAQ because there's new rules for flyers now, and so all flyers will kind of need those because they have an agility and a pursuit value now that they kind of need to kind of work in the game now. So let's get at it. So the Death from Above, or Death from the Skies, is basically kind of a reprint. Funny enough, some of the reprints they've done recently, the original Death from the Skies was a soft cover book. This one's a hardcover, and the original like Crimson Slaughter and it basically Black Legion were hardcovers, and now they're soft covers on the reprints. So kind of interesting. I just don't know why they're doing that. Here's the thing. There's formations in this, and then there's also like dogfight phase. Now the dogfight phase is a new thing to the game. It takes place at the beginning of the game turn, not the player turn, but the game turn. And basically, if each player has a flyer in reserve, then this dogfight phase occurs. If one doesn't have one, or if neither have them, then obviously this phase doesn't even occur. So it really only happens if the fighters, or if the person has a flyer on both sides that are still in reserve. So dogfight phase, there's a sequence of play. There's interception subphase, engage subphase, maneuver subphase, and attack subphase. The interception subphase, I think this is what's going to kind of slow the game down a little bit. So each player places the dice behind their hand, so it's hidden from the opponent, and they choose 1, 2, or 3. And basically, how it works is basically the defender, if they have a 1 chosen, and the attacker has a 1 chosen, the attacker is the winner. If the attacker chooses 2 and the defender chooses 1, then the defender is the winner. And if the defender chooses 1, the attacker chooses 3, each player rolls a dice and adds their player's pursuit value to the roll. The player with the higher score is the winner. In case of a tie, roll again. The next one, it's kind of a table. If the defender chooses a 2 and the attacker chooses a 1, then they roll off, the same as I just read. And if both are 2s, then the attacker is a winner. If the attacker is a 3 and the defender is 2, then the defender is a winner. And if the defender chooses 3 and the attacker chooses 1, the defender is a winner. And then if the defender chooses 3, the attacker chooses 2, then they have to roll off. If both choose 3, then the attacker is a winner. In addition, roll a dice and add the result to the attacker's pursuit value for the duration of the subphase. So, yeah, it's interesting, and that's just the interception or the engagement. Sorry, the engagement thing. In the interception subphase, I should have gone through that. That's the first part. Each player rolls a dice and adding 1 if they have more fighters than bombers in reserve, subtracting 1 if they have more bombers than fighters in reserve, and then re-roll ties. The winner is the attacker. The attacker picks one of their flyers from the reserves and one enemy flyer that is in reserves to take the part in the dogfight. Take the 2 fighters and place them directly across from each other, 36 inches apart. So the winner here with the interception is that if you have like a bomber or something in reserve and attack a fighter, the winner gets to pick one of their fighters, and then they can pick a bomber, which is easier to kill. So that's the good thing to winning. Then after the engagement phase, you have the maneuver phase, and you basically kind of have this whole thing again where you have to pick 1 through 3, and the attacker and defender. I'm not going to go through the chart again, and I apologize because that was long enough as it was, but then basically that affects basically when you're maneuvering, you basically kind of reposition your flyer, and you can basically after they pick their numbers, the winner can force the opponent to pivot their flyer up to 90 degrees to the left or right, or up to 180 degrees if the winner's agility value is at least 2 points higher than the loser's agility. Alternately, the winner can choose to jink. If a flyer jinks, then in the dogfight phase, the effects described on 58 last until the end of that phase, so the jink only lasts till the end of the dogfight phase. And then the attack subphase is once you've kind of maneuvered everybody, basically you, depending on how you're positioned, if both flyers are kind of head-to-head or head-on pass, then they can only snap fire at each other. And then tailing, if one is behind the other one's butt, basically, then the one that's tailing can shoot at full ballistic skill, and the one that's getting shot in the butt can only snap fire. And then all other angles, basically flyers and bombers can only shoot snap fire attacks, while fighters attack using their full ballistic skill. Jinking flyers can only snapshot no matter what. Skyfire weapons ignore the angle of attack rule for any weapons with Skyfire rule. They also shoot using the flyer's full ballistic skill unless they are jinking, no matter what the angle is. So it's important now to have like Skyfire weapons. There's also an attack chart here, depending on what you choose, on who shoots first. And it was Han Solo, not Greedo. Sorry, Star Wars reference there. Anyway, once that's all done, all flyers are taking part in the dogfight are considered to be zooming fires. Any damage that applies to the fighter lasts till the end of its next turn. If the flyer suffers a crash and burn result, you got to roll the dice on the table again. And on a roll of a 1, the enemy player immediately transfers a flyer to the battlefield more than an inch away from any models, and then they do the crash and burn result like we typically use. So 2d6 plus the scatter dice. Destroyed in midair is 2 through 5, and the flyer explodes in midair and is destroyed, removed from the game, and its passengers embarked on the vehicle are removed as casualties. That's important too, because if you're using a transport and you have guys on it, you could be a really powerful dude, and if you take out that flyer, it's just dead and doesn't take part in the battle anymore, which is pretty big. Number 6 is crash in enemy territory. The player in command of the flyer transfers it to the battlefield within more than an inch away from any models, and then they do the crash and burn again. So they do this 2d6 and scatter dice. And then if any dogfights that have taken place, if one player has flyers in reserve, They're if only one player has flyers in reserve, they're said to have air superiority. Now, the air superiority also affects your reserve rolls, so you -1 to your enemy's reserve rolls, and you +1 to yours with air superiority, which is pretty big. So, I think this could have an effect on the game if you're relying on flyers to bring your stuff in. I think it actually makes bringing stuff in with flyers more dangerous now because you have the risk of losing your guys. Although this thing cannot affect like drop pods, which is important, or deep striking units. So that's a big change. The other thing is that there's flyer wings now, which allow you to take your flyers as different, like basically wings. So you can take up to 4 of them, and so every flyer now can take up to 4, except for the Vendetta, because we don't know what's going on with Vendetta. Take up to 4 and be in a wing. Now the wings act differently than a squadron, or where they have to stay within 4 inches of each other and shoot the same target. So how the flyer wings work is you have to nominate a wing leader, and the wing leader is the most experienced pilot in the group. They receive a special wing leader ability, which you roll on exceptional skills, and that's on page 76. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, so there's different charts for each. So the Valkyrie Wing has one, the Space Marines have one, Raven Wing, Space Wolves, Grey Knights, Blood Angels, regular Space Marines, Dark Eldar, Heldrake, Necron. Now the Orcs have a Mech Boss Wing Leader for basically the Wazbomb Blastjet. Otherwise, the rest of the flyers do the Fly Boss Wing Leaders. Tau has Tau Empire Wing Leaders. I'm not going to read through all of those. Once again, that'll be a long video. But the wing leader gets the special ability to represent that he's the exceptional leader of the group. Deployment, you only make one reserve roll for all the flyers in a flyer wing. They arrive together, basically all or nothing. In addition, they deploy. Each flyer wing in the wing must set up within 4 inches of at least one other model from the flyer wing, following the rules for vehicle squadron coherency described in Warhammer 40k rules. Unlike other units, however, following their deployment, each flyer in the flyer wing operates as an individual unit. Flyers never block line of sight for other flyers in their own flyer wing. They're in constant communication and roll and bank to open fire lanes for their comrades. So they have to initially deploy as a squadron, but after that they act independently and they basically can shoot different targets. That's big, because that's the kind of downfall to taking multiple, like a squadron of vehicles, especially flyers. It's hard to kind of maintain coherency, especially when you got a battlefield full of stuff and enemies. Sometimes it's kind of hard to kind of maintain coherency and get good fire lanes and shoot good targets. They also have a thing called attack patterns, and these are things that you don't have to do, but if you do them, they give bonuses to one or more of your flyers in your wing. So there's a couple. I'll show you the diagram. This is one of them. Sorry, guys. And it's called the Vigilance attack pattern. And if you're attack flyer, you get the vehicle in the front gets +1 ballistic skill when they attack ground targets. In addition, they add 1 to their Jink saving rolls. Bombers add 1 strength to any bombs they use. use in the front flyer to a maximum of 10 strength. In addition, add +1 to any Jink throws. And then the fighters, the vehicle at the front has +1 ballistic skill to when they attack air targets. In addition, they get +1 to Jink. So that's the Vigilance. The next one is the Vehemence attack pattern, and that's basically just kind of 3 of them, and they have to be 2 to 6 inches together, the front to the next 2, and the back 2 have to be 6 to 12 inches together. The attack flyer gets Tank Hunter ground target. Bomber gets to reroll armor penetration roll with bombs and can choose to reroll glancing hits but they have to accept the second roll no matter what. Fighters have Tank Hunter for air targets. So that's a vehemence. The intolerance pattern is basically 3 of them kind of in a row here within 2 to 6 inches of each other. And that one, the weapons used by the attack flyers, that's all of them. And so is the last one, the vehemence. It affected all of the flyers. Now this one's big, so all the flyers for the attack flyer ignore cover on ground targets. That's pretty big. Bombers, all bombs have ignore cover special rule. Fighters, they have ignore cover special rule against air targets. So that's pretty big. Then there's the unmerciful attack pattern, and that's basically 3 kind of nose to nose, 2 to 4 inches apart. Attack flyers double their pursuit value when they move flat out. In addition, they can make a shooting attack with up to 4 weapons when they have moved flat out. So they can move flat out, and normally if you move flat out, you don't get to shoot anything. But you can still move flat out and shoot up to 4 weapons, which is what flyers can do anyway. If they do so, all flyers in this basically unit must target the same enemy unit, which must be a ground target. The second flyer to the attack the second flyer to attack the enemy unit gets +1 to ballistic skill. The third flyer to the attack gets +2 to the ballistic skill. So that's helpful. Although once again, you're just hitting 1 unit with 3 flyers. It's a lot of shooting. Bombers, they can move flat out and make a bombing run while making the flat out move, as long as they did not drop bombs in the previous movement phase. If they do so, all flyers must target the same enemy unit. And then this one's different. Now reduce the distance. The second bomb scatters by 1 inch, and reduces the third bomber reduced by 2 inches to a minimum of 0 inches. So that's good. It helps the bombs hit easier. And I could see potentially with bombers doing this more, just because each bomb may not, if against a tough target, may not kill as much or have as much effect, especially like super heavy vehicles, stuff like that. Fighters, they basically can move flat out and shoot up to 4 weapons. If they do so, all flyers must target the same enemy unit, which must be an air target. The second flyer to attack has +1 to ballistic skill. The third flyer to attack has +2 to ballistic skill. So that's a big deal. And if you have your wing person up front, if they're better ballistic skill anyway, then you're helping your fellows out. Then there's the indomitable attack pattern. That's this one. So it's 3 and then 1 in the back. And in the front attack pattern receives the special rule that would normally receive for being in the vigilance attack pattern. So that's the vigilance. That's the first one. So the 2. So the front one gets the vigilance attack pattern benefits. In addition, all models in the flyer wing receive the special rule they would get for vehemence attack pattern and an intolerance attack pattern. So that's both. They basically get the benefits for both this and this one. So they get both. But that's 4 flyers, mind you. So that's pretty big. There's the omniscience pattern, which is basically kind of 4 across. That one, at the end of each of your shooting phases, pick 1 enemy unit that is within line of sight of all the flyers in the wing. The rest of the battle, this is the rest of the battle, not just the turn, the rest of the battle, the flyers in the wing have preferred enemy special rule against that unit and any other enemy units that use the same data sheet. So, i.e., if you choose a Dakajet, the flyers in this attack pattern would gain preferred enemy against all Dakajets for the rest of the battle. I'm glad it works for everything, because I think if you're targeting 4 flyers against something and get preferred enemy, if you don't wipe that thing out, then your flyers are doing a pretty piss poor job. So it's kind of nice if you get that benefit the rest of the battle for everything in the unit. It's pretty big. Once again, it's 4 flyers, so I don't see that as much being used. Then we have the Fortitude one, and that is a 4 plane one. All flyers in the flyer wing have a 4+ invulnerable save, and it will not die special rule. In addition, all weapons on the flyers have the interceptor special rule. This is a big one, and I think if you're running 4 flyers, this is a really nice one. You have a 4+ invuln, so you don't have to jink because you've already got an invuln save. You have it will not die. It's nice. You can get some hull points back. Probably a little nicer for some of the bigger flyers that are a little tougher. A lot of them are, armor 10. They're just probably going to die pretty easy. But also have interceptor. That's pretty big. Let's say you get, you're going first and your reserve roll comes in and, oh man, my 4 flyers have to come in, but he's got a bunch of flyers coming in, or he's got drop pods or something like that. This is great now because now you've got interceptor. So when his stuff comes in, now you get a free shot at him before he gets to do anything. It's like having Tau when you're in the air. Anyway, I think this is a useful one. I think the Fortitude attack pattern will see some uses if you're running 4 flyers. Competitively, I don't think you're going to see it too much because 4 flyers is a huge point sink that you have to do. So I'm not so sure you're going to see that one used that much. So, my opinion. Now, let's talk about flyers for a second. So, what they did to change the flyer rules, one of the biggest one is if only one player has flyers in reserve at the end of the dogfight phase, then they are said to have air superiority. You can choose to add or subtract one from your reserve rolls, and their opponents must subtract 1 from all of their reserve rolls. I think I said that wrong earlier, but that's really big. It kind of helps. So having a plane isn't always a bad thing because it really can help your reserve rolls. It's almost having like an OTARC plus, basically master of the fleet that kind of helps take 1 off your the opponent's reserve rolls for IG. So I think it's worth considering. I think it's a good roll. All flyers now have a characteristic. There's attack flyers that they're designed to attack ground targets from low altitude with their guns and missiles. Bombers are designed to saturate the ground targets with bombs and explosive munitions. And then fighters are designed to attack enemy flyers, shooting them down before they can carry out their mission. All flyers have a pursuit value and an agility value. And so some, basically what's interesting is when you're shooting, so some rules refer to air or ground targets. For these rules, flyers, obviously, skimmers, jet bikes, this is important, so skimmers and jet bikes, flying monstrous creatures, and flying gargantuan creatures are air targets. All other units are ground targets. Now, someone could debate if you're flying monstrous creature or flying gargantuan creature were in glide mode, then do they still count as an air target? From what I'm reading, I'm guessing they do, which is big. So it's, anything with Skyflyer is going to be able to shoot, these targets normally. So flyers can move. So models that can physically fit underneath the flyer can move underneath it. Likewise, a flyer can end its movement phase over such models. However, when moving this way, enemy models must still remain 1 inch away from the base of the flyer, and a flyer cannot end its move within 1 inch of an enemy model. So same as before. Aerial support. Flyers have to be in reserve unless they have a special rule that stops them from. They all have Jink. It's a 4+ cover save if they choose to do it, which is no change from before. Now Zoom, this is different. So basically flyers have to go 18 to 36 inches, but and basically they can do a 90-degree turn before they start moving, which that hasn't changed. But basically there's a new thing added. Sorry for taking so long to talk there. A zooming flyer can attempt to make a second turn of up to 90 degrees at any point during its move, including just after it makes its initial 90-degree turn. This is called a break turn. This is new. To do so, move the flyer in the position where it will attempt to break turn and roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or less than the flyer's agility value, then it succeeds and may make the break turn and carry on its move as normal. On any other roll, the turn fails and they can only carry on in a straight line. So they can't do their special break turn. So it doesn't really hurt them at all, so it's worth trying. So that's big. That's a new thing. It's almost like having a little bit of like the Eldar Vector Dancer. Now, what that does with Eldar now, with having Vector Dancer, is now you've got that 90-degree turn, plus you've got another free 90-degree turn that you want. So it makes Vector Dancer even better, honestly. I mean, it makes Eldar a lot more deadly in the air. But it gives everybody a chance to kind of do Vector Dancer, which is kind of neat. The flyers have a sophisticated target system that works fastest at speed. Zooming flyers can fire up to 4 weapons in the shooting phase, so that hasn't changed at all. They can't be rammed or tank shocked unless they're hovering, which if they're hovering, they're basically treated exactly as a fast skimmer at that point. So that's how you treat them. Now, everything has to make snap fire shots at zooming flyers. Zooming in cover. So, although zooming flyers can travel very close to the ground, they are not capable of making use of cover in the same way as other models. Because of this, zooming flyers do not receive the benefit of cover from intervening scenery or model. Now, this is a big change because it did before. So now, zooming flyers, they can't benefit from cover at all, even if there's something in front of it. And I'm assuming you still have to see your target to shoot at it. But this is a big... It gets rid of any kind of cover, so you pretty much have to jank if you want to get a cover save. That's big. Zooming and flat out. A flat out move must move forwards in a straight line to 12 to 24 inches. Add the flyer's pursuit value to a minimum maximum distance it can move. For example, a zooming flyer with a pursuit value of 4 will move 16 to 28 inches if it goes flat out. So there can be other modifiers. So flat out, your pursuit value can help you go faster. It kind of makes you go faster. Let's see. You can't repair a zooming flyer. No change from last time. You can leave the board and basically come back in ongoing reserve. The flyer cannot leave combat airspace in the same turn that it entered from reserves. So, a flyer that suffers a crew stun result has its pursuit and agility values reduced to 0 until it recovers. That's a big thing too. Well, it's a change because we didn't have pursuit before. So that's kind of the rules for the flyers. I know it's a lot to kind of cover, but there's a lot of big changes here, and there's still more rules that I haven't even read because it would take forever and a day. So, hey everybody, sorry. So there is a rule now that changes all flyers, and it actually helps make the Tau bomber actually work again, because the rules before it had interceptor and stuff made it so it could never fire because it shot a blast weapon, and it can't shoot Skyfire and Interceptor with a blast weapon. So fighter Skyfire mode. So zooming flyers with the fighter combat role can choose whether or not they enter Skyfire mode at the start of each shooting phase. If they do so, all weapons they fire that phase are treated as having Skyfire special rule. Flyers with the fighter combat role suffer a -1 penalty to ballistic skill on their characteristic profile when targeting ground units. So anything designated as a fighter can shoot ground targets so not using Skyfire. That's the same as before, but now they lose a ballistic skill. So they're -1 ballistic skill. Now the other thing that changes is that all other flyers in the game that aren't a fighter basically can't shoot Skyfire, or they can only snap fire. That's huge. That's big. That means some of our flyers can't shoot Skyfire anymore. Like, a lot of them can't. So that's a big change. So I just wanted to bring that up and make a point of that. Now, flyers, and there's a detachment that you can take that basically it's a special detachment that has basically a compulsory flyer wing. So you have to take a flyer wing. So that's either basically 1 to 4 planes. Technically, you have to have at least 2. And you can have up to 2 more additional flyer wings. So you can have a total of 3 flyer wings. All models must be the same faction. Command benefits: the air commander. Pick a wing leader from this detachment to be its commander. If the commander is in reserve, you can reroll the dice in the interception sub phase. If you have air superiority and the commander is in reserve, you can add or subtract 2 versus 1, and then your opponent must subtract 2 for their reserve rolls. Combined formation, you can roll once for all wings in its attachment to arrive from reserve. If you roll successful, then they arrive. If it fails, then none of them do. You can roll individually for each wing if you prefer, so you can still do it individually. Objective secured. Here's a big thing. All transports from this detachment, which can hover, have the objective secured special rule. A unit with this special rule, which is hovering, controls an objective even if an enemy scoring it is within range, unless they also have objective secured. So that's big too. So anything that's a troop transport or transport has objective secured. It's pretty big. It's pretty good. So let's go into the rules for each ship. Now, I'm not going to go through everything because a lot of things haven't changed, but I'm just going to mention like the stats that have changed or the role that the plane has now, because we didn't know this before. So the Valkyrie is now an attack flyer. It has a pursuit of 1 and an agility of 3. So that means you want to make those brake turns, you need to roll a 3 or less to be able to make that 90-degree turn. So half and half chance. They didn't put the Vendetta in here, which is stupid, but they didn't. The next one is the Space Marine, and it's a fast attack. It's a Stormhawk Interceptor. Its ballistic skill is 4. Front armor is 12, and the side and rear armor are 11, and it has 2 hull points. It is a vehicle that is a flyer only. It is a fighter role. The pursuit ability is 3, agility is 3, and it's 125 points. It comes with a twin-linked assault cannon, a Las Talon, a twin-linked heavy bolter, ceramite plating, and an Infernum Halo launcher. They also have a special rule: high altitude fighter. Add +1 to the Stormhawk's pursuit and agility values when it is taking part in a dogfight. So it's kind of designed to kill models in a dogfight. You may get up to 3 additional Stormhawk Interceptors in a wing, and any model can replace their Las Talon with an Icarus Storm Cannon for free. Any model replaces twin-linked heavy bolter with a Skyhammer missile launcher for 5 points or a Typhoon missile launcher for 20 points. Now the Las Talon is new, and let's look that baby up. That's a 24-inch range, strength 9, AP 2, heavy 2. So basically it's like a 2-shot las cannon. Now the Icarus Storm Cannon is also new, and that is 48-inch range, strength 7, AP 4, heavy 3, interceptor, and skyfire. So that just has interceptor and skyfire, which, remember, that helps you in the dogfight phase. Really is where it really helps you, because also having interceptor, remember, if you fly on and the next turn somebody else flies on, that gun that's heavy 3, strength 7 gets to fire with interceptor. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, the Infernum Halo launcher. You can reroll failed cover saves for a Stormhawk Interceptor that's jinking. So basically, it's got like fortune for its jink. It's pretty cool. It's only an attack fighter. 125 points. Now, it's basically in the same kit as the Storm Talon gunship now. The Storm Talon's next, and that one is now designated as an attack flyer with a pursuit and agility of 3. Now remember that front, side, and rear are 11 on this guy and only 2 hull points. It's a little different than the Stormhawk. Now, basically, he's got vectored afterburners, and you can treat a zooming Storm Talon gunship as having a pursuit value of 3, 2, 6, you choose, when determining how far it moves when traveling flat out. When hovering, a Storm Talon gunship receives +1 to its Jink cover save. Other cover saves are unaffected. So it helps the Jink. It also has Strafing Run. The Strafing Run does increase its ballistic skill by 1 to ground targets. So it's going to hit ground targets better. It's the same rule it had before, but the vectored afterburners is new. Next is a Storm Raven gunship. That really hasn't changed at all, but it's now an attack flyer, and it's a flyer hover transport. You can take up to 4. They still have the Storm Wing, which is it's a detachment or a formation. That's 1 flyer wing consisting of 1 Storm Talon gunship and 2 Storm Talon gunship. Sorry, 1 Storm Raven and 2 Storm Talon. The Storm Raven must be the wing leader. The formation's Storm Raven gunship has a Strafing Run special rule if the wing is in an attack pattern. So it has to be in an attack pattern to get that special rule. And they have orbital power drive. They add 12 inches to a minimum and maximum moves of all models in the formation when they first arrive from reserve. In addition, the enemy models that use the Interceptor special rule to attack models from this formation have to snap fire the turn they come in from reserve. So they have to move 12 more inches to their minimum. So they have to go, and instead of 18, they have to go 30 inches. Yeah, that's right. So that's a big move initially, but anything that's going to intercept them, they have to snap fire instead of getting to shoot, even if they have skyfire. So that's big. There's a Strike Wing that has a wing that consists of 2 Stormhawks and 2 Storm Talons. They have twin leaders, so there's 2 wing leaders. One must be a Stormhawk, one must be a Storm Talon. If desired, the wing can form 2 Vigilance attack patterns, one consisting of 2 Stormhawk interceptors and 1 of 2 Storm Talons, as long as both pairs of flyers are in an appropriate attack pattern. When the Vigilance special rules are received by each pair, no matter how far apart they are, or they can form attack patterns as normally. So that's their special rules. The Blood Angels, they have the Storm Raven gunship, and then the Grey Knights have Storm Raven. The Dark Angels have the Raven Wing Dark Talons, and that is designated as an attack flyer, pursuit 3, agility 3. And then the Nephilim Jet Fighters the Dark Talon was an attack flyer. I don't know if I said that wrong or not. The Nephilim Jet Fighter is a fighter, and its pursuit and agility is 3. And they have Unrelenting Hunter. I don't know if they had this last time or not. When shooting at enemy vehicles, a Nephilim Jet Fighter can choose to treat any weapon destroyed result as an immobilized result instead. That's pretty cool. They have a Raven Wing Abductor Squadron. It's 2 Jet Fighters and 1 Dark Talon. The formation's wing leader receives special rules for the Vigilant pattern if the wing is in any type of attack pattern, not just Vigilance. The Vigilant special rules received in addition to the normal special rules of that attack pattern. And then Dark Talon must be the wing leader. Then we have the Space Wolves, the Storm Wolf, and the Storm Fang gunship, and they're pretty much unchanged. They do have a special formation that's 2 Storm Wolves and 2 Storm Fang gunships. Units that disembark from flyers in this wing have the fleet rule on the turn that they disembark, as long as the wing was in an attack pattern when the unit disembarked. Ice Storm, if an enemy unit suffers unsaved wound from any dispersed Hellfrost attacks made by 2 or more models from this wing, it is frozen until the start of your next turn. A frozen unit cannot move voluntarily in any way and has its weapon skill characteristics reduced to 1. That's really big and really cool, but just remember you have to have 2 Stormwolves and 2 Stormfangs. I don't even have that. I have 2. I haven't even built both the kits yet, and I actually honestly plan on building the Stormwolf and not the Stormfang because it's not that great. So I don't see how often you're going to see this formation, to be honest with you. So the Stormwolf, the pursuit value is 1, pursuit value is 4, agility is 1, and the Stormfang is pursuit 4, agility 1. This one's probably not going to bank too much, but it does look like a flying shoebox after all, so I don't think it has a lot of agility here. Yeah. Okay. So the Helldrake is an attack flyer. The Stormwolf, I don't know if I said it, but the Stormwolf was an attack flyer, and the Stormfang is a fighter. I don't think I said that before. The Helldrake is an attack flyer. Pursuit is 2, agility is 4, so it's pretty agile, which is pretty helpful for it. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost forgot. The Helldrake actually got some rules changes. It has aerial strike. In a dogfight, a Helldrake, which is tailing an opponent at a range of up to 12 inches in the attack subphase, can make an aerial strike in addition to its other attacks. The aerial strike inflicts strength 7 AP to hit. That's good. Meteoric Descent, basically treated as a vector strike. It's strength 7. It had that before. And they basically do end up putting a rule in here for the Khorne Demonkin Helldrakes that they get basically blood tithe points and stuff for Khorne Demonkin. So that's cool. I thought they had, I guess they don't. I thought they had a formation. I guess they do not. Sorry. Alright, Xenos. The Razorwing Jet Fighter. As you can probably guess, it's a fighter. The pursuit and agility is 5, so crafty little Eldar there. And then Void Raven Bomber is a bomber, and it has a pursuit of 5 and an agility of 4, so that's pretty good. And then they have the Blackheart Talon, which is a flyer wing. It's 2 Razor Wings and 2 Void Raven bombers. And one of the Void Raven bombers must be the wing leader. And if this formation is an attack pattern, the Razorwing jet fighters receive Interceptor special rule until the start of the next turn. In addition to other benefits to the attack pattern, enemy flyers cannot engage the Void Raven bombers from this formation in a dogfight if any of the Razorwing jet fighters from this formation are also in reserve. So that kind of protects the Void Raven bomber, which is nice. It forces them to go after the fighters. After deployment is complete, pick one enemy unit as a priority target for this formation. All the flyers in this formation have preferred enemy when they attack that target. Added bonus. Next, you have the Eldar, the Crimson Hunters, and they are pursuit and agility of 5 each. They're a fighter. One model in a wing can be upgraded to an Exarch, and he must be the wing leader, basically, which makes sense. Otherwise, he's the same rules as before. The Hemlock Wraith Fighter is an attack flyer, pursuit of 5, agility 4. And they can take powers of Demonology Sanctic, Runes of Battle, and Telepathy. And he's a level 2. Shroud of Kurnos is 2 to 3 Crimson Hunters with 1 Wraith Fighter. Any Crimson Hunter from this wing that is within 8 inches of the wing's Wraith fighter adds 2 to deny the witch rolls. In addition, the pilot of the Hemlock Wraith fighter has a shrouding psychic power from the telepathy discipline, in addition to the other psychic powers that he normally has. I mean, this is actually one of those wings where I could see people using, because I have like 3 Crimson Hunters that I've used in the past, and I have a Hemlock Wraith fighter, but it's not that great as far as the special abilities. It's kind of like me. So we'll see. Night Size for the Necrons. The Night Size is an attack flyer, pursuit of 4, agility of 2. The Doom Size are attack flyers, and they are pursuit 4 and agility of 2. So they're both kind of about the same. They have the Oppressor Flight, which is 1 Night Scythe and 2 to 3 Doom Size. The Night Scythe must be the wing leader. You can reroll to wound rolls of 1 and armor penetration rolls of 1 from this formation if the target is an HQ. If the formation is in an attack pattern at the start of your turn, pick a single friendly Necron vehicle that is in reserve. That vehicle can deep strike to the battlefield within 6 inches of the Night Scythe from this formation and will not scatter. Then roll for remaining reserves normally. So you have to kind of be on the board already and in an attack pattern at the start of your turn. Now, you're already going to be reserve anyway, so the likelihood of this benefiting, it may have to be after turn 3 if you get him out on turn 2. I don't see that really helping him that much, to be honest with you. The orcs have the Blitz Bombers, which is pursuit 3 and agility 2. It's a bomber. And then the Burnabombers, which is also a bomber, is pursuit 3, agility 2. And then the Dakajets are a fighter, and they have pursuit of 4 and agility of 2. So these guys aren't going to be making fast turns too often. And then the Wazbomb Blastajets are an attack flyer. They're 140 points. They're Bliss skill 2. They're front side rear armor 10 and 3 hull points. And they have a twin link custom mega cannon, a smasher gun, and a stick bomb flinger. And they're supersonic and a wah plane. They have a you can take a Git Busta turret. Weapons in the Git Busta turret have an interceptor special rule. And then they also have rocket boostas. Once per game at the start of a dogfight phase or your movement phase, a Wazboom Blastajet can trigger its rocket boosters. When it does, it has a pursuit value of 6 and an agility of 1 until the end of the turn or dogfight. So once per game you can do that. Any model can replace its custom mega cannon with twin-linked teleport mega blasters for 5 points. It can replace its Gitsbuster. It may take a Gitsbuster turret with twin-linked super shooter for 20 points. It may replace its stick bomb flinger with a custom force field for 25 points, and it may have red paint for 5 points. So the custom force field is interesting because it gives them a 5-up invulnerable save to shooting, so it may make you think maybe I don't need to jink, something to think about. Let's see. As far as the Teleporter Mega Blaster is an 18-inch range, Strength 8, AP 2, Assault 1, Blast teleported. On a wound roll of 6 made with this weapon, it has an instant death special rule. If this weapon rolls a 6 for armor penetration, it causes a penetrating hit regardless of the weapon's or the armor's penetration result was higher than the target's armor value or not. The Smasher Gun is 36-inch range, D6 plus 4 strength. One roll once each shooting phase to determine the strength of the weapon after the target has been chosen. It is AP 1. That's pretty big. The red paint job adds 1 inch to their movement phase when they fly flat out. The stick bomb flinger, once in each enemy shooting phase, and once in each dogfight phase, giving it a 5+ invulnerable save against one glancing or penetrating hit each phase. So it's kind of like a little mini invuln save it comes with. Yeah. The custom force field, a model, and all models within 6 inches have a 5+ invulnerable save against any shooting attacks. That potentially could work against you too, because if you have enemies within 6 inches, they're going to get a 5+ invulnerable save. Fly Boss has a +1 to both skill when shooting at air targets. So that's kind of a big deal, because that kind of makes your DACA jets not as good, because basically he's going to be able to skill 2 unless you and you can make one of them a fly boss for 15 points. It's kind of like an Exarch, but he's only getting +1 both skill to air targets, so it makes the DACA jets actually less good than they used to be. As far as, there's an Orc Squadron, which is 3 flyers chosen in any combination: a Blitzabama, a Burnabama, DACA jet. The life of an Orc boy is unusually brutal and short, but a handful of every squadron that survive the first few missions become unskilled, deadly pilots. Before deployment takes place, pick one wing from this formation. All the flyers in that wing have +1 ballistic skill and agility value on their profile, and have skilled rider special rule. Don't really know why that matters, because they're never on the ground. And then when a squadron of Orc flyers swoops down together on the target, the Orc flyboys become caught up in the wild thrill and cry, "Here we go!" echoing in the comms. If all 3 flyer wings in the attack pattern are in attack patterns at the start of the shooting phase, each wing within 24 inches of at least one flyer from another wing, then all the flyers in this formation have flat out and shoot move. And I apologize, there's actually 3 wings you have to choose in any combination: a Blitzabomber wing, Burnabama wing, or DACA jet wing. So you could choose a minimum of 2. So you gotta have 6 DACA jets. I don't see people doing that too much. There's a custom Wasp mob, which is 1 Wasbone Blaster jet and 3 Orc flyers, including Wasbone blast jets in any combination. The wing leader must be the pilot of the Wasbone blast jet and must take a custom force field. The wing leader and the other flyers in the wing receive a 3+ invulnerable save if they're in an attack pattern. That's actually kind of big. So if you have to take a custom force field, but let's say you're taking that and 3 DACA jets, and they're in a formation, they all get a 3+ invul, and that's pretty big. I mean, that's actually probably the best formation I've seen in this book, to be honest. Then we got the Tau. Their Razor Shark Strike Fighter is an attack flyer. It has pursuit and agility of 3. And then the Sun Shark Bomber is a bomber, and it has a pursuit and agility of 2. Yeah. And then there's an Aircast Support Cadre, which is 2 Razor Shark Strike Fighters and 1 bomber. Roll a dice at the start of your turn. For each hull point lost by models from this formation, on a roll of a 6, it's restored. Commitment to the greater good. If the formation is in an attack pattern, then the flyers in the formation will receive the commitment of the greater good special rule until the start of your next turn, in addition to the other benefits that the attack pattern confers. Roll a dice if a crew shaken or crew stunned is inflicted on a model with this rule. On a 2 to 6, the result is ignored and has no effect. Note that if the model lost any hull points as a result of the attack, these are deducted as normal. So it's a decent one, although I don't think Tau flyers are that great. Basically, that is a review of the book. I'm sure it's a lot longer than you guys want it to be, and I apologize. I tried to make it as compact and as short as I could, but there's a lot to talk about here because there are some major changes. And in this book, I think, is almost a must-have for anybody playing the game, at least regularly, especially if you have flyers. You really kind of need it. Sorry, but it's kind of something they're kind of forcing on you. If you play with buddies and you don't really care, then who cares? And if you're not playing with flyers, then it doesn't matter. But if you are playing with flyers, this is kind of a big change, and you kind of need it because there's some major things that have changed in that the whole dogfight subphase is just a totally new beast. It adds to the game to some degree. I wish it's a lot more complicated than I kind of hope for. I kind of hope for something easy. Because honestly, we don't need to slow the game down anymore, in my opinion, and a lot of gamers' opinion, especially ones playing competitively. So I think it's not the greatest. Otherwise, I'm happy with the book. I think it's some changes to the flyers, helps the Tau ones actually work. But I think it's more fair. I think it helps in a way that I think is cool in the game. But I also think that they changed the flyers in a way that I think is more fair too, because I think a fighter should have a harder time hitting a ground target because it's not what it's designed for. Versus I think bombers should be able to just hit regular, ground targets more regularly, and probably shouldn't be able to fight air fights as well because that's not what they're designed for. So I think. Overall, I think the book is cool. I think it will change the game. I think it's a big one. So there you have it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I apologize for it going long. I'm going to try to get the reviews up for the Black Legion and the Crimson Slaughter up soon. And I have some battle reports on the way too. So until next time, guys, keep on wargaming. Take care. And love to everybody, okay? Take care. Bye.
Goodbye, you sexy motherfucker.